In this makeup tutorial, we're going to do a pretty basic drag makeup look, and this is really just base makeup that you can go and bounce off of to create whatever look you would like to. Starting off, we're going to glue down our eyebrows. I am using one of these Elmer glue sticks that turns purple. You're going to want to go back and forth to really get it in there and really press that glue in. Now with a flat surface, which I am using the back end of this wooden brush to get them down. Then after that first layer has dried, we're going to go over it 1 to 2 more times just to make sure all of those hairs are fully down and use our flat surface again to get that pressed in place. After the glue has dried, we're going to use some isopropyl alcohol, 70% is the best, to take off some of the oil around that area along with any extra additional glue or little stragglers of hair that you might have pulled out gluing down and pressing your eyebrows in place. Now we're going to go and cover our eyebrows the rest of the way, so using this off red tone from this Makeup by Mario palette, which is a very matte color, I am blocking out my eyebrows. This is going to really help to conceal the darker color of my eyebrows, and my eyebrows are pretty dark. If you have dark eyebrows, this is a great step to do. Do not skip it. Then after that, we're going to use this correcting stick. I am using white, and I'm really pressing it into my eyebrows and making sure I fully and totally cover all of that red, if not most of it. After both of my eyebrows are covered, then we can move on to a flesh tone color. I am using this one that is almost an exact match of my flesh tone. Really pressing that in just like we did with the red. And then after that, I'm using some translucent setting powder. Now I'm not going too crazy because I don't feel that it's fully necessary for at least this look to go crazy with it. But I'm just making sure everything is now set in place and not going to move when I end up using my foundation. First off though, for the foundation, I want to have something that's going to give it a nice grip, so I'm using some of this. And this stuff is really sticky, and it's a great base to make sure the remainder of the makeup is going to stick down. Now onto the foundation layer. So I'm putting on a generous amount of this. I don't want to go too crazy though, because I don't want my eyebrows to get too saturated with it and then start to have issues with the glue. So I'm going pretty light and layering it as I go. After that layer is down, then I'm going to use this darker color to start to outline some of the different areas that I really want to pop. Now, the best way to explain this is look at male anatomy, see what the facial structure looks like, and outline some of the areas that would be extremely prominent on a male's face, such as the forehead, around where the eyebrows are, the accentuated jawline, sort of like that, along with also making the temples look like they're slightly more pressed in. As I'm doing this too, I am going to be using some foundation just to blend it a bit, because this color is pretty dark and I don't want it to look too intense, but normally with makeup like this, because maybe you're going to be on a stage, you do want it to be very prominent and showing a lot more. For the cheekbone, I am going with a half circle right along the zygomatic bone, which is that lovely bone that creates the jaw structure, and I'm creating this almost snatched in, pulled look for the face to really accentuate my jawline. Then I'm also filling in some of the shadow where my nose is, making my nose look slightly skinnier, along with also making it look like my eyes are pressed in a bit more, which is going to give me more of that masculine look, along with also accentuate the jawline that I created before, making all of my features look a little bit more skinny, along with also different areas a bit more prominent in comparison to the others. And you can see that I am blending it slightly, but I'm not really blending it too much because I'll be using some more foundation to go and blend it further. Now I'm putting some shadow underneath the bottom of my lip. This is going to make it look more prominent, make it stick out a bit more. I'm also creating this little divot, so a dimple there where my chin is, and a line in the middle of my chin. Now back up to the cheekbones. I'm using a finer brush to add a bit more shadow in there underneath where that half circle is, along with also along the side of that line. Then where the temples are, I'm also filling in with a bit more of a darker cosmetic to give it a bit more shadow, blending it with another brush too. And doing the same where the cheekbones are to just even out and flatten some of that cosmetic there. Then I'm going to be going in with some lighter colored cosmetic. So this is a correcting stick that typically you would end up using for usually your cheekbones, but I'm adding some highlights on the nose, the forehead, along with also following along where the shadow is not to create some more light. When you're doing a look like this, you always need to think that wherever there's going to be shadow, there's always going to be some light. So when you have some of those prominent features, the area where the shadow is not, you should have a bit of a lighter foundation or cosmetic that you're using. Now I'm really going to be blending that, and you can see that there's such a big difference between the lighter and the darker areas now, and it's really making these pop a lot. So it's giving it this really cool, almost three-dimensional effect and completely and totally changing the shape of my face. Then after that, I will be using some more foundation just to subdue some of those brighter areas, along with also further blend some of the darker areas just to make it look a bit more cohesive, which you can see that I am doing here. And again, this shading along with also the brightness has fully and totally changed the shape of my face. And it's really, really, really coming together at this point, and it's so crazy what you can do with makeup. Now at some of these darker areas, so right where that triangle is going to be on the face, I'm using this angled brush with some more of that brown cosmetic, and I'm using my fingers now to go and move it around and blend it a bit. You can see that that really pulled in my cheeks, along with also too just added so much more depth to this makeup and made it look really honestly just a lot more real. So as I'm adding some of the shadow, I'm adding this where the different places of my face would typically be more pulled in, adding just a very light bit of shadow to the chin. So I'm blending some of that down, along with also following along where my natural jawline is. Now I'm using one of my favorite tools that I recently acquired over the past couple of months. It's called the Brow Buddy. Great tool, awesome for going and figuring out how you want to go and draw eyebrows. And for me, doing cosplay along with also makeup like this, it really is a game changer. I don't have to go and redo my eyebrows a bunch of times. So after I had where I mapped it out and drew on those points, now I'm just sketching out how these eyebrows are going to look, and male eyebrows typically end up being pretty large, pretty bushy. So I'm filling it in with some little hairs at the sides, and then I'm just going to be filling it in fully the rest of the way. Now for the philtrum, which is that little indent there, I did add some more shadow into there, use some of the foundation just to slightly blend that, and I'm going in with this correcting stick to just highlight a couple more areas, because again, where you're going to have shadow, there's going to be light. So these areas that are very prominent are going to have some light that touches it. Same thing with this line at the edge and also that half circle there. Doing this is really important. This brings out the features so much more and also will end up making things look a lot more realistic in the end. Then I'm using some black eyeshadow because you know what? I wanted to just spice up this look a little bit more, add some eye cosmetic to it. This part of the makeup look is where you really start to get very creative with it. So you can maybe add some glitter, some little gems. It really honestly depends on what you're going for and what you want it to look like. I just went with a very basic eye makeup. So some eyeshadow underneath, on top, at the sides, winged it out ever so slightly. And then I wanted to get a little bit creative after I had the base down for the eye makeup. So I decided maybe I'll try some lip plumper, which, okay, lip plumper actually, it's not that it's terrible, it feels like bees stinging your lips. And I have really, really tiny lips, but I wanted more of a luscious and full look for this. So I decided, let me try this. It really honestly did not disappoint. This stuff worked so incredibly well. And as I was waiting for that to work, I decided let me add some glitter to this look. So over the eyelids, which so pretty, love it. It adds so much to this look. Then to accentuate my eyes further, I'm going to be using some of this for the eyeliner area, along with also some of the highlight underneath and on the eyebrows. Because my eyes are green, this gold really makes them pop and just draws so much of that color out. So I'm putting just a very small line to very lightly wing it out there, along with also some at the edge of my eye. Then I'm following along the bottom of my eyebrows. And again, this is the part of the makeup where you get really creative as to whatever you want to do. But To tie everything together, I decided maybe this needs a little bit of stubble. So say if you want to add some stubble to your look, you would want either a stippling sponge or a stippling brush. I ended up using the stippling sponge. Stippling sponges typically have a bunch of holes in them and they are semi-rigid, so they're not really that soft. But it grips the cosmetic and it creates these little dots here. So I'm putting some over my lip, along with also I followed along where my chin was, and I followed along the edge of my jawline. Now my lips have fully and totally gotten bigger. I'm wiping off the remainder of that plumping serum because, yeah, it felt a little bit like bees stinging my lips. But then I added some glitter to go and tie the lips along with also the eyes in to fully complete that portion of the look. Sprayed it a bunch with some setting spray, which is so incredibly important for makeup like this. You want that stuff to stay in place because the next thing that I do is I add on a silicone muscle top after, of course, everything has dried. And the easiest way to get one of those tops on, so say if you're going to be doing drag makeup, maybe you have a performance that you're doing and you've recently purchased one of these silicone tops. Easiest way is to cover up your hair, take the silicone top, and this thing is about 9 pounds in total. Take your arms and get them through the holes first. Pull it up to about where your shoulder is at the base of it. And then use your hands to extend the neck, along with also kind of thread your head through it. Now to avoid the makeup, since I did the makeup first before putting it on, it's easiest to get the chin into the lower section of it and then the upper portion of your head. And then you can pretty much just slip your head through. It does take a couple of times practicing, so if you do get one of these, make sure you have someone at home the first couple of times you put it on. Then you'll kind of just learn how to take it on and take it off. Now for a bit more glitter, I ended up using some of this product. This is from Sushi Glow Cosmetics. It is also a gold, which further brings my eyes out for this makeup look. It is really pretty. It adds so much to this, and I just put it at the hairline. Then for one of the last things, after I was satisfied with the amount of glitter that is there, which so incredibly pretty, really does bring so much more to this look, then I put on some fake eyelashes, which you definitely want to wait to put these on, especially if you're putting on a muscle suit. This should be one of the last things you do. But here is the final makeup look with an added shirt. When I do looks like this, it's always crazy how makeup can fully and totally change your face. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.